Open. See, bet like 14K. My sizings back in September were just way too big. When it comes to Ace of Clubs turn, like I actually don't like a bet here. Even though we do pick up equity, like I think they have a lot of Ace X in their range on flop. Like if we decided to bet here, they have both Queen X and Ace X in their range. If we decided to bet here, we would be targeting specifically pocket fives or like 4X and like pocket fives through like pocket nines or something like that. It's a pretty narrow range of hands that we're expecting to get to fold here. So I don't know if I like a bet here. What do you think, Melissa?
I agree with everything you just said. Sometimes we get too caught up in that ace hits our range and not what are we accomplishing.
Right. And not really paying enough attention to our opponent's range. That needs that needs to be really our focus. Is not thinking about our range. We need to be throwing away the focus on our range and really really zooming in on what does our opponent's range look like. And they just have a lot of this, a lot of queens, a lot of aces that both defend pre and then call bet on this flop texture. And there's only like what I could see here. Like there's six combos of fives, sixes, sevens, eights. Like I guess threes and deuces. So there's 6 times 6. So that's 36 combos of pairs that we're targeting versus like umpteen combos 3, 6, 9, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, 108. There's 108 offsuit combos of ace X that call flop.
Jeez.
And then 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. So there's like 150 combos of ace X that our opponents have versus 36 combos of pairs. So that's like a 5-to-1 ratio of them having ace X versus having a 4 versus having pocket 5s through 8s and pocket deuces, pocket 3s. So if you think about the prevalence of what they're going to show up with here, most often it's just going to be an ace X type of hand. And that doesn't even mention all the queen X combos that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I struggle in that area a lot too. Of not believing they have an ace and that I can get them off of whatever.
Yeah, that's the most likely hand they have here by far. That calls queen 4.
And I know you've just cringed before watching me
barrel out.
and then at the end of the hand he's just like, what did you think they had there? What else do you think is calling you there?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I didn't think he had an ace because he just limped in or what. It happened last night actually.
Yeah. So when you bet here and get called on this flop texture, you need to know that the overwhelming majority of hands that are calling here are ace X. So when you see this turn card, that is the worst turn card in the deck. right?
Yeah, and it's hard for somebody that's been thinking like me for so long. It was like, oh well, like if I raised in or whatever, like I want to rep the ace or
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Right.
We're thinking too much about our range. And
yeah.
and I told Poker Pastor that the other day. I said, forget about your range.
Yeah.
And let's zone in on what our opponent's range looks like, because they're not thinking about our range. And they're not thinking about what we're doing with different parts of our range. That's not really a thing that we need to be focusing on.
We want to assign them to be thinking more than they're actually thinking.
Yeah, we'll get to that versus like regs. Like eventually that'll be a focus of like our study sessions, because everybody will be crushing all the low and medium stakes that they're playing, like 109s and stuff. And then we need to really think about our range and think about what our opponents perceive of what we're doing. But right now, like, the focus really just needs to be understanding our opponents' ranges and what they're going to be showing up with in these spots. And back in September, I might have bet this. I might have bet this. I hate a bet. I really do hate a bet here. But that's why before I even looked at what I did, like I just broke down the math for you guys, like it's just it's a really ace x heavy range that we're looking at from our our opponent's big blind defend on queen 4. There's gonna be calling a lot of like every ace really. Obviously the ace 5s, the ace 4s, the ace 3s, the ace deuces that have like straight draws or backdoor straight draws or pairs, but then they're just like not folding. They're not probably folding any of these. Ace 9, ace 8. They're gonna be like, I probably still have the best hand, and I'm gonna peel one, right? So they're just gonna peel with all their aces here, and they're obviously gonna have their queen X, and then they're also going to have the very small, minute portion of the range that's like this. That's 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, 5s, 3s, deuces, and like
some random 4s too.
And like some 4s, yep. Some stuff like this. Stuff like this. But yeah, that if you're counting all of the ace X combos and the queen X combos, they far outweigh the 4X combos and the pair combos. So we need to know the math of that, and that's why I broke it down the way I did, so we can understand that and so we can visualize that and start to think about this at the tables when you see bet this flop and you see bet like third pot or quarter pot on flop and they call. What does the range look like? You should be able to like list it off, and that should help guide you on further streets, turn and river. Is this turn? Is this river a good card for me in the fact that it misses my opponent's calling range on flop? Right? Like those need to be like thought processes going through your head in game.
No.
And if they did miss your opponent's like calling range on flop, then is this a good like barrel opportunity for us? Yes or no? Like what are we targeting? What parts of their range are we then targeting? What are they gonna do with their ace X on? Say we get what do you guys
say you get a 6 of hearts.
So say it is a 6 of hearts. Like, do you think that we should be barreling that card? Do you think they hit that card, or do you think they miss that card?
They miss the 6 of hearts, don't they?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. But then,
but should you still be betting?
But then the next question is, if we are going to be betting the 6 of hearts turn, what are we attempting to fold out in our opponent's range?
At that point, maybe getting most of the ace X out.
That doesn't have a pair.
Yeah.
And that's a decent way to think about it. Do we think that they're gonna fold out all of their ace X though?
I'm not sure. Not knowing in a vacuum, I'm thinking.
Right?
No, but we can fold out stuff like King Jack, and well, I mean, yeah, I guess like a lot of their ace X's might. Ace King might not fold.
Yeah, they may not hit the 6, but like that may not scare them though. They may not. Mm-hmm. They may continue to station us with ace X, but let's think about what if it's a 9, a 9 of hearts.
We have a lot of 9s in the big blind though, don't they? Oh.
What 9s do they call with on flop? That then hit the 9 of hearts on turn.
Pretty much only 9 king, 9 jack, right? 9 10.
But are they calling 9 10? Are they calling 9 10? Are they calling jack 9? Are they calling king 9?
Depends on how. Yeah, it depends on how wide this.
Probably not. Probably not. Like they could call some like king 9 suited of like diamonds, of like clubs, of like spades. They could have a few of those. But we have a really good blocker for that. We block, we actually.
Oh yeah,
we do block some king X combos that may interact with that. But actually, King of Hearts is actually the worst king for us to have because we don't block king 9 of diamonds, king 9 of clubs, king 9 of spades. But we discount those combos because we realize that our opponents aren't defending correctly. They're not knowing that they have to call with king 9 of diamonds, king 9 of spades, king 9 of clubs here. They're just overfolding.
So you're putting him on a much stronger range if he's calling that c-bet.
Yeah, like most of the ace X pairs, 4x and queen X. Stuff like this. This is what I would say their calling range is on flop. And so how hard does this calling range hit a 9 of hearts on turn?
Not very.
What percent of this continuing range hits the 9 of hearts? Do we know?
Like a non like a non-0%, like 8-9.
It's a very small percent. It's just a handful.
Exactly. And the 9 of hearts is an overcard to pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 8s. It's an overcard to a 4. And it starts to connect the board, right? What if it becomes a 10 on river or a jack on river? Oh, all of a sudden there's 3 to straight, and there's 3 overs to their pair, or to their ace X, and it starts getting much harder for them to like hero us with an ace on a 9 of hearts turn, and it also gives us equity. We turn a straight draw, so I would definitely be barreling on a 9. I'd be barreling on a 10. I'd be barreling on a jack. I'd be barreling on a king, on all 4 of those cards. With some of those, we are value betting. Some of those hands were semi bluffing, and or straight bluffing. Like an 8. An 8 isn't terrible, but like an 8 doesn't really. It's not going to necessarily like start to scare an opponent with ace X. Or like I would not barrel on like a 6, probably not like a 6, 7, 5, 3 or deuce, or even like an 8. I would probably just start bluffing those higher cards like 9s and higher, and then definitely not on an ace. An ace is like the worst card. So like these are kind of like ranges that.
Do you think when you went to bluff on the ace that you just accidentally started thinking more about your range and what you should be representing instead of
in the moment I probably wasn't thinking about their range like I am right now.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard in the moment, like, and especially if you have a lot of tables.
For me, it'd be easy to think that I picked up equity, I've got a gut shot now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of people will think like that. And having the thought processes that we're instilling with you guys of understanding our opponent's ranges, like, it's just going to get you ahead of the curve. Where others are making mistakes, you guys won't be making mistakes. What do you think about that, Melissa? Like, do you barrel on those lower cards? Oops, where are we? Do you barrel on like a 6 or an 8, or do you adopt the strategy of like that, those like higher cards, barreling on those ones too?
I don't know in game what I would ultimately do.
We're not asking in game. We're asking what your strategy is on certain cards.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Do you have 6 tables up, Melissa?
I have 5. I just lost the 6.
Okay, it's fine.
Literally.
It's fine. We can move on. We can move on next hand.
It's an extremely interesting spot, and it's opening my eyes in some things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's harder to barrel a card like a 3 or a 5, easier to barrel like a 9.
Yeah.
Because I think his range is going to connect a lot with a 3 or a 5.
What about a 6? What about a 6 or an 8?
Yeah, an 8 for sure. I think I would keep going.
You keep going on an 8? Okay.
A 6 is interesting because, like, our ace deuce, ace 3s don't play as much with a 6 as they do
with a 5,
like a 5 or a 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those low cards are like really bad cards.
Yeah. So I guess a 6, really, to be honest, probably not that different than an 8.
Yeah, I think
reality,
I think a 6, 7, and 8 aren't like terrible cards to barrel. But they're not. I don't think they're. I don't think they're our best.
Yeah, do you think
candidates.
they're just close?
I think they're like
marginal.
They're probably like marginally plus EV. Like, our opponents may still like hero with ace X, and with like 4X and like pocket pairs. But like an 8, 9.
Staying away from marginal is better.
8, 9, 10, Jack, King are much better cards to barrel than those specific turn cards. So,
see, sometimes I find myself like if I hit a 10 there, just kind of checking back because of showdown value. Is that bad?
Yeah, we should be continuing there with on a 10.
Because they have so few queens.
They just don't really have that many queens. Yeah, exactly. And we get value from 4X. We get value from ace X. We get value from like pocket 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, and we're also gonna want to be betting that turn as a bluff a lot. So we're gonna be wanting to bet as value as well.
Okay.
And also, like, if you bet the turn 10 and get like check raise or something, like it's really not that hard to get away from. It's not like, it's not like, oh my god, what do I do now? Like, they just have a queen and they're just gonna play their hand really straightforward. So we ended up betting that turn, and we just like threw away 50k chips when we shouldn't have.
Ick.
I know.
Yeah, I had an opponent yesterday actually like bet his check raise his trips on turn, and I had hit top pair, and it was pretty easy to get away from there.
Yeah, if you just let your opponents like telegraph what they have to you, things things get a lot easier. Poker Pastor, are you still there?
I am still here.
What are you thinking about all this, bud?
I'm digging it. It's nice to see some late game. I've done a lot of the stuff I've done with you, and a lot of videos I've seen have been early game, so I haven't gotten to see as much of the late game stuff.
Yeah, I like it. I like being able to take spots like this, where we put the pressure on this opponent. And I think what were the blinds? They were 6K, 12K.
So this is just a 3-bet fold. Do you like this sizing?
6K, 12K. Here we go. So I think I'm looking at this guy's stats. So yeah, this guy had been really active. He'd been very active at this table. And off of these stack depths, like it's like they just have to like have a monster here to ever continue.
I'm just wondering if do we need to go this big?
Yeah. If we're gonna who's Fallon? There's a lot of feedback coming from you, Fallon. So if we're gonna bluff here, going 64K isn't going to get the job done.
Okay.
We're just gonna be flatted too often and out of position with a marginal holding. That definitely is not ideal. So with our 3-bet bluffs, we do want to go big. We want to go big. We like this is probably the smallest sizing I would go with the 3-bet bluff actually.
Okay. I just didn't know. I'm assuming the 64. The fear is that he's going to call behind.
And he should be calling behind with most hands.
Because the 64 creates an awkward 4-bet size for him, right? Like it's kind of weird to go to like 19K for like half of his stack and then not really have any
19K?
Well, I guess it's a little big. What are you talking
about?
What would his 4-bet size be here? I'm just thinking about awkward stack sizes.
I'm not really afraid of being 4-bet bluffed.
No. I'm not talking about being 4-bet bluffed. I'm talking about like the stack depth to where the 4-bet is just awkward for our opponent in general because jamming feels like it's too big, and 4-betting.
Are you talking about the 3-bet?
I'm talking about our opponent's 4-bet.
I mean, I feel like that's just like extraneous in this situation to really discuss because like we're like really what we're just kind of focusing on is like what kind of 3-bet sizings do we need to be taking in these spots when we're just not like 3-bet bluffing like almost ever.
Got it.
But like for in these late game situations versus opponents who are just super wide, we do need to be taking spots like this. Yeah, we can defend here, but we actually do have a decent holding. Like for like I would like our best like bluff combos are like from this position. I would take something like this, something like this, something even like king 9 suited, like queen 9 suited. something like this. King Jack off, Ace 5 off, King 9 suited, Queen 9 suited. And I really don't want to see. I don't really want to actually see this very often from you guys. But deep in tournaments, and when you've been collecting large sample sizes on people over a couple hundred hands, and you know that they've just been going ape shit like on the raise button, I like taking spots like this, and just picking up all those lovely chips in the middle. Like there is like there's 65K in the middle here for us to pick up, by putting in a 3-bet that should work. Like I would expect this to work like 90% of the time, maybe even more.
Especially if he's overfolding.
Yeah, and we just see him just let it go, and because we haven't done anything to show him that we're capable of like being light here. And I like to be very selective of when I do take spots like this. Being aware of your image at the table. That you haven't been showing down a lot of bluffs, or you haven't been doing much at the table to like have a bad image. That's when it's like the best kind of spot to take a situation like this, especially when it gets late game and people get scared. They're like, oh my god, I got 3-bet by the big blind. What do I do? And they're just so wide that they're just not going to be able to defend against our play here.
There's even some decent regs that don't really understand or know their 4-bet jamming ranges from that position.
Yeah, no,
they're way too tight.
Yeah, I assume most of these people don't really have 4-bet ranges. Period. Like besides like the nuts. So that's kind of why I was like, I don't think we really need to talk about that. The more we start to discuss like strategies against regs, the more we'll discuss like 4-bet and stuff, 4-bet strategies.
Like
I have to say, the only time that
I you're coming in hot.
Oh my god. Fallon's got she's got microphone issues.
Yeah, like sub 40, you can shove like any pocket pair there as a 4-bet, and I would bet what, like people are gonna fold out 7s and 8s there probably.
Okay, hey, can you hear me now?
That's much better. Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I have to say that like the only time that and I've watched Justin play thousands and thousands of tournaments. The only time that I see him using 4-bet bluffs and really like a lot of 4-bets in general, are like on ACR, in the deeper stages of the tournament, and then on WSOP at like final tables. Those are the only places I ever see. I don't really see him doing it much on Bovada, and I don't see him doing it much on Bet Online, just because the caliber of players is different.
Yeah. 4-bet bluffs are a no in my book for the most part.
An opponent's got to have a 3-bet bluff for us to have a 4-bet bluff, and most opponents don't have that.
Exactly. Oops. God.
So usually, like, I don't even think about it unless I've got substantial stat history and I'm seeing somebody with like a 11, 12, 13% 3-bet. Otherwise, I'm not even on my radar.
I'd want to see several hundred hands minimum.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Thousands usually, like right at the one game.
Exactly. So, yeah. Interesting. 7-5-4. They check. They. Oh, I remember this hand too. Oh God.
Oh, that was a good reaction.
Like they just floated us super wide, and we like check. They bet. We called, and here okay, and we well. My thought process with turn was that there's plenty of like 8x. There's plenty of like potentially ace deuce, ace 3. I actually don't know if I love this I remember my thought process during this hand, but like when I'm like really looking at this, like I think it was an in-game read really is like what this was really, because I don't really like this. Like if I'm just like coming to this with fresh eyes and not really having any information on my opponent, I don't really love check calling here. I feel like this is just throwing away 48k long term. But like I think we played with this opponent a lot.
You had the hot read.
And we had the hot read, yeah. Like just something about like having a bunch of hands on this person and seeing them float wide in previous situations that I thought that I actually remember thinking that this was a very profitable check call actually. Big blind is it 6k? What is the big blind? Okay.
I just don't know how we're going to beat poker when we're down to the final 4 tables of a $300 event and somebody uses queen jack of clubs as a bluff on this board. Poker's getting tough.
Yeah, so it's
Jeez.
Yeah, this is a pretty advanced play for him floating with this flop. It's a lot for us to give him credit. I wouldn't normally give my opponents credit here for having stuff like this. So I think that's why normally I wouldn't like this call. But
right.
Versus his opponent, I'd been playing with them for 152 hands, and they had a fold to c-bet of like 20%. I think that may have had something to do with it. And thinking too that they would shut down a lot of rippers when they miss. So just like being in that flow state of like mind where my brain's able to think about some different things than maybe normally. Like really zoning in on what my opponents are doing. So yeah, normally I would just want you guys.
Yeah, but typically at a lower level, you're never flatting that pro bet with ace king there on the board.
No, probably in general, anything against like good regs, like I'm not flatting.
No, I mean against recreationals. I mean that just seems like one of those spots where it's hard. How can they be bluffing? Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing. Anyone, I would only flat that against regs, really.
Oh, okay. Understood.
I love this when people just give up, give up to us, and we have 2 overs, backdoor straight. Just gonna whip them so often when they check. They're just recreationals are just giving up a lot. They're like, oh, missed the board. I guess I better give up because we have a lot of 7x, 5x. We have a lot of this stuff in our range. So jamming, folding. And again, just like opening up my range here. Deep in this tournament where people are just playing scared money. We bet quarter pot. Oh boy, I remember this situation. So when they flat 997, like the range I put them on a lot of the time here is like ace queen, ace jack, and then like pocket pairs, like I guess like they could have like deuces through tens. And we actually block some of their range of hands that's going to fold turn because we have the ace of hearts here. So we block hands like ace jack of hearts, ace queen of hearts. So this was a really weird situation. Melissa, are you around still? What would you do here? Maybe she's
She's on mute.
So she's on mute. Okay. Like I think I actually check call here. If I'm playing this right here in the moment, I probably check call just because we have so much equity and this range, this board texture hits their range a lot. Mm-hmm. Like they can have some 9x here even. They can have some boats. And of the hands that we think we're going to get to fold on turn, we block those. So I think I like a check call here. I think a quarter pop bet isn't terrible either. Going 65K into 266, 269. Like we're kind of like setting our price here, really.
I was gonna say, when you set your price, do you ever go thinner than that? Like, do you ever go like 1/6 pot here, and just hope that our opponents are gonna like? I guess what's the goal of your 1/4 pot bet then?
It's
are you trying to still get fold equity?
We're not trying to induce. I think if we bet 40K here, we're going to induce more often than betting this sizing.
Okay.
I don't want to induce here. That's one thing I don't want to do. Like, I'm going a big enough sizing that they will respect it. Like, but like not. And like, because if we check and they bet, like they're probably going like at minimum of like 100K here. So really we save money by sizing super down here, and at the same time we generate some fold equity against a few hands. Like I guess my thought process was that like we get them to fold like deuces through fives and like ace jack maybe, but ace queen for sure. And this sizing will accomplish that. Plus when they have the top of their range, like a 9, or like pocket 10s or something, they may not raise us even then because we went semi-respectable sizing here still.
We're kind of buying ourselves a river.
Yeah, exactly.
At our price. Maybe not versus this exact hand, but
I know, right?
I agree. I actually don't mind this bet because I think it does accomplish a lot of what you just said. There are better hands that we do get to fold here. And we're likely going to get to see a river, and it's at this price versus if we check and he bets, it's almost for sure going to be more than this.
Right. Oh, for sure. And like when you have a pot size this big, like he could go upwards of like 160 or 200 here. And we hate our life when we face a bet like that. So yeah, I actually really do. Yeah, I really do like this decision to bet here and to really size down and to go. What did we go? It's like we went less than a quarter. We went less than a quarter. Yeah. And yeah, he didn't raise us. And we actually okay. I was just gonna say this actually that like what do we get value from here? Like I don't think there's a lot that we get value from, but if we go like really small, potentially
maybe A6.
Potentially A6, potentially like A7, or like Ace8. Like there's like Ace8, A7, A6, and then like maybe like who knows, Jack 8 suited, 10-8 suited, pocket 10s, pocket jacks, pocket queens, if they slow played and did not 3-bet pre, which I actually do give recreationals credit for having those hands, because I see them flat those hands a lot more than they should be. So I think those were the hands all those hands we were thinking about getting value from, and I actually didn't even like going. I like going like a quarter pot or less. So I think I do like this. And he just calls with 8s full.
What?
He just called?
Okay.
But
you know, there's quad 9s out there.
Ace-9 and quad 9s.
I know, right? You can never be too careful. And then he limps the very next hand. We just check behind. If we had like the King of Hearts, I think we lead.
Do you know where you are now? Final 3-ish?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely final 3. Just fold.
He's tricky.
Let me see a limp.
I don't think he knows he's tricky. I think he's just passive bad.
Was this the same dude who limped? No, it's a different dude. Okay. Like I don't mind. I think the lower variance route here and the near plus EV play as well is just completing here. Could lead, but I think it's fine. I think I prefer a check. Just because I think we prevent hands like this from betting for us, and they're not going to call bet either. So I think checking is the maximum EV decision on flop. Check, and then do we bet here is the question. 4 to straight. Don't really think they have too much of 5x here or anything.
What's going to call you?
Yeah, I don't think too much, really. I think we're only getting paid by like Ace7, Ace8, Ace9. It's a really narrow range. I think checking is the route. And I don't know why we folded. If we're I think we tanked about this hand. Like, I guess we just
if you think he's never bluffing, I mean,
I guess we just assumed, yeah. I guess we just assumed that our opponent was under bluffing or not bluffing at all. It's just a very interesting like play on his half. Like, I don't really expect to see this very often. Cause like,
you completed pre.
We can be checking 2 pair here. And
did you ever show any aggression in this hand? I'm just wondering why he may just never thought you had an ace.
No, I don't think. Yeah, we didn't. We just called flop, and check turn, and then we checked river. If he doesn't think we have an ace, though, what do you think he thinks we have?
It's actually really interesting because he kind of has showdown here.
Yeah.
Even with the king.
I think it's a good play. I'm just wondering what maybe went into his mindset other than that he didn't think you had an ace, so he thinks he can bluff you off whatever you do have.
Well, he could probably get you off a 4 here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like his bet a lot, and I'm with you. I don't know why you folded here.
Yeah, I guess it was just assuming that my opponents are like just like not bluffing, yeah. And we got punished.
I mean, and there's always a chance he has better aces too.
Yeah, I don't think he goes the sizing with that though.
Yeah, no, if he has like ace jack, for example, I think he's actually gonna be trying to get you to call here.
Yeah, I think we do call the size of a bet. Actually, yeah, we do call the size. It's like what 5x does he really have, and what 2 pairs does he really have? Yeah, I think it's just call. Like when you really think about that, think about their sizing and what they can be betting the sizing with on this board texture. I think we need to kind of throw aside the
recreational part of
the recreational under bluffing part of it, because recreationals do under bluff for the most part, but we just need to look at their sizing and look at the texture and understand that they're repping a 5 here and or 2 pair, what 2 pair combos do they really have? Yeah, it's just a call. Like without even seeing his hand, honestly, like. I think that would be the thought process we need to be having in this moment. And also just considering that we did just check it the whole way to him. And that he could bluff us off a 3, a 4, a 6. So yeah. It kind of looks like we have one of those type of hands.
He's never really betting 2 pair here anyway, right? Like he would never bet river here with his ace 3, ace 4, ace 2, ace 6 hands. Not that sizing anyway.
Potentially, but he might not. He might not. You might be right.
It just seems like a weird sizing to try and get value. Like what's he trying to get value from? I mean, I guess with the hand you have, but.
I mean, that's the thing. I think if he's going for value, he's not checking turn and then betting this size on the river.
Yeah, it just seems.
Yeah.
He has to literally have like
texture.
He has to literally have like ace 5 suited or pocket 5s there, and even ace 5 suited is probably a little iffy, questionable.
We put in a little cheeky raise here. I like it actually. I think this lead size just screams weakness, and we put a lot of pressure on whatever this guy in the cutoff like has here, and we just have a ton of equity.
Check raise.
No, we didn't check raise. He donk led, small blind donk led, and that gives a lot of credence to us make our play here looks super like legit.
Did we open?
No, it was a limped pot.
Okay.
And then small blind led. Well, yeah, small blind led, which is fine. But then we put in a lead here. Definitely a sizing tell that I see a lot in these type of tournaments, and in tournaments on ECR too, where you see those low stakes $11, $5 tournaments where people they're betting 5th pot when they're weak.
Just stabbing.
Yeah, and so I just like to take advantage of that and just force them to make decisions they don't want to have to make. And take it down. Okay. 4, 7 bigs. I mean.
This is a spot where I would be uncomfortable doing almost anything other than folding.
We should be shoving.
I don't think we should be folding. We should definitely not be folding. Folding is like the worst option here.
Is it?
Yeah,
we should be shoving this. Like,
I think you can be limping. Limping is a viable option, but then shoving is also a very viable option. And I think I prefer shoving.
If we limp here, we're just getting shoved so much. I think we just shove and take that option away.
Yeah, I think our shove range is like.
I mean, I'm not saying like everybody is doing it or all recreationals are doing it, but like people have really caught up on the push fold. So I think we limp here. We're just getting shoved so
I think
much.
We're limping, or I think we're shoving like like all of this stuff.
Yep.
I think we're shoving like any suited queen.
This is probably like I probably shove queen 7 off, but that's
pretty
it.
close to bottom.
I think the lower queens I probably just fold.
Yeah, because they're shoving Nash, but they're not calling Nash, and then like, I'm still struggling on what calling Nash looks like.
Well, I was just that was going to be my next question on it. If the tables are turned, what's your calling range on a 7 big blind stack? Is queen 10 off in it?
It should be.
Yeah, it should.
It's any sure. Queen actually.
For sure.
Now I don't do it. I on both my shove and my calling ranges, I tend to cut off the bottom, but there's a little bit of player dependency on that too. Like if somebody's super, super tight, or just based on, where I am in the tournament. I mean, this guy's super short, so he has nothing to lose by.
Yep.
Like
he should be happy calling this. Like I would snap call this.
Now, if it's a little bit different and like in the tournament, say this person's like 5 of 10 or something, then
but
you can probably fold because we have some leverage. But he should be calling.
This is what our range looks like here for like shoving, really, like.
Yeah.
And we can go even wider. You can even like shove all your suited jacks. Like,
you could argue shoving any two suited, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In fact, if you like ICMizer this, this is probably pretty close to any two cards, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right.
If not, it might be any two. It's probably like top 80%.
Opening.
Oh crap! I'm supposed to be in this multi-team tournament. I don't even remember which one it was.
In what?
The Grizzly game one?
Yeah, Justin told me I need to enter. He told me
$5 rebuy
to enter today.
I think this queen is too good of a card for our opponent's range. So I think we need to be probably checking and calling like any reasonable sizing. And that's not a reasonable sizing, so we just fold. And we get away. I'm all in for 18 big blinds dealer. We get it through. Do you guys understand why we're folding here?
Wait, let me look.
This was a raised pot. We defended Jack-8 off in the big blind. It went check, and it went the queen of clubs. You guys understand why we check fold here?
Wait, he raised in and you defended?
Mm-hmm. And it went check flop, and we check turn, and he bet, and we folded.
Well, first of all, that check back is like super strong. And
not necessarily. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be.
I don't like it when they check back like on flops like that.
I mean, I think that's just reading too much into it, honestly.
Which I do that often.
I'm sorry, what was the pre-flop action?
It was an open and a defend in the big blind. And we check through flop. And we're the big blind.
Mm-hmm.
What is his sizing there?
And he goes 123,000 into 185.
2/3.
Oh, that's why you fold.
Yeah.
It's
not
it's
just
chunky sizing.
It's not just because of the sizing though. It's because of the turn card. This is a really bad turn card for us. Like they have a lot of ace queen, king queen, queen jack maybe bets flop, but they don't have to bet flop. Like they can still have also some slow played 10x, like ace 10, jack 10, queen 10, king 10, 10-9. Suited, of course, and yeah, like their sizing is just like it's super value heavy. Like they're not gonna be betting this sizing with like a hand like ace king, ace jack. And so we really pick up on that and really identify that along with all the other things that we just talked about with this board texture. And it's a really easy fold.
But if it's value heavy, I mean, it actually was. I guess he's trying to get a queen to call.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And anything else?
I mean, and an 8, like what you've got.
Yeah.
But what an 8? I mean, you didn't call with an 8.
Well,
I'm just wondering.
We can't assume that they're thinking about that. Our opponents aren't going to be thinking like clearly that if I go this sizing, they're not going to be thinking about what
he's folding out.
Yeah, they're not thinking about the consequences of their bet sizing. They're not thinking about why they're betting a certain size either. They're just like, wet board, got overpair, big bet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's like the limit to their thought process. It's a very fear-oriented process too. Like, board getting connected. Oh my God, bet big. Please call. Don't shove. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I really don't want you guys thinking too deeply into like why they're choosing their bet sizing or whatever. Just knowing that when they go chunky on a card that really favors their range, that it's just going to be value most of the time. Almost exclusively, like, and if they size down here, if they go like 30K, I might I'd probably check call because I think I just have the best hand. But if I didn't have an 8, I would insta check raise them. Because their bet sizing most of the time is just very indicative of their range. They go really small here. It means that, hey, they're weak. And they could bet like 40K here with ace king, ace jack, like anything really, like ace 5 of hearts. And they're like, they could bet 40K here just thinking that, my opponent checked me again. Let me probe.
I can make him fold.
Let me see if I can just take the spot down here. So like, I just want you guys to be really zoning in on like our opponent's bet sizing and what that is indicative of, or how that can really tell us what their range looks like.
Whereas it seems like what we're trying to do on our side in the same situation is doing exactly that, because they're not thinking that that's a weak bet.
Yeah, they're not thinking that. They're not thinking about their bet sizing.
No, but I'm thinking like if the shoe's on the other foot and we're just, we've got, in a lot of cases I'll do this where I don't think they're thinking about that either. I can throw out a 20% bet and they'll fold just about anything that any kind of draws they have. Because if they're real recreational players,
yeah,
that makes sense.
And of course, yeah, and we actually do a lot of that.
Yeah, that was just the point I was making. Is like they're doing what you want us to do, but they're not doing it for the same reasons.
No, they're not. Yep. If we had kings here, I wouldn't mind. I actually wouldn't mind them checking back. I wouldn't mind you guys checking back kings in the spot on 10, 10, 8. But I'd probably still bet and go like 50, 60K just because there's so many hands that can continue. 8x, Jack 9, Queen Jack, 9, 7, Ace X. But I also don't mind a check back And then when
I don't mind to check back on that queen because that did hit a lot of us draws.
Oh, if we're in their shoes,
if we've got the kings right,
I would actually still bet. I would still definitely bet on the queen turn. I would go their sizing actually, but like just like what you said is exactly on point. That we're choosing our bet sizings for very particular reasons, and they're not betting those sizings for any particular reasons. Like they're just like, oh, scary board connected. Don't raise me. Gotta bet big. Protect. Well, we'd be betting this turn the same sizing because there's so many hands that we get value from. Like if we had the kings here and we bet flop and got called, this queen of clubs really connects with the big blind's calling range on flop. Like the big blind, if the big blind were to call a bet on flop, they would have queen jack, queen nine, potentially they would have queen eight, obviously, maybe a hand like king jack of diamonds, king jack of spades that then turns open ended on turn. And so those all would be reasons why we bet big on this turn. But they're just betting big on the turn because, oh, scary board, don't have a straight, please don't raise me, gotta get value. Like it's very, very different reasons for doing what actually is really the same thing. Like in this particular example, the same thing. So all right, so any other comments? We can just go to the next hand. We're jamming. Getting walked. Raising it up. I like it. We're raising any two here, Casper.
I'm sorry, I stepped away for a second. Start over.
This is our big blind raising range here.
It's so hard, Casper, sometimes for me. Like I don't want to raise that sometimes. I just
Wait, you're small blind. That's your small blind raising?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just think the guy's gonna jam on me, and he never, like, a lot of times they don't unless they just have the nuts.
And you start to think that they're attacking you when they jam over your raise two times.
And is this some situational though thing though too, or is this just
no?
This
is
your
in
big
general.
No,
this is our
100%.
Okay.
This is our small blind versus big blind range. Yeah.
Unless we actually have somebody who's done it to us more than 3 times, like more than 2 or 3 times that we raise and they just keep jamming.
You need to have history though.
I get to where I clam up if they jam on me once, but I'm like working on not clamming up even if they've jammed on me once. Like
even if they jammed on you twice or 3 times even, until you get like a significant sample on them, like you'll see this guy will be like a 17, 10, 5 and not have played like a single hand, but jammed on you every single time, blind versus blind. And sometimes that'll mean something, but a lot of times it won't. It'll just mean
means they had it.
They just had a hand every single time they're in the big blind versus you. Do you guys not have those situations where you're not getting any cards, but like every single time that you're in the big blind, you have ace jack, ace king, pocket nines? Like
I have had that.
So like just like being very, very persistent with your strategy, even when it's not always working out.
We only have to win here 38% of the time to break even. So, and you just think about what most recs are going to fold out in the big blind here. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to be like printing money over the long run.
Exactly. And if not pre-flop, it's going to
hyper
profit post-flop. That's the like if you were dealt 2 napkins here, and you raised and got called and had to show down, how would your napkins do in equity?
They would suck.
Yeah,
Well, if
you would show that you have 2 napkins and your opponent wins. But that's not how this game works, and so even against opponents who are going to be calling you every single time, blind versus blind, like our C bets are going to work upwards of 70, 80, 90% of the time. And especially on the board, and especially when we know what board textures to bet on and what board textures to not always bet on. We know what board textures hit them, and we can be more careful, more cautious. We can be risking less on those board textures. And so our strategy is going to mass print money, mass print EV for us. If not pre-flop, because like our 10-4 is like, yeah, like it's garbage, but it is going to be printing post-flop.
If you don't mind, would you go into what board textures would hit a big blind defend BVB?
So it mostly, honestly, like if we look at their defend range pre blind versus blind, it starts with their defend range, right? You have to have a really good understanding of like what they're defending. Like they're probably defending like all this stuff, right? And
all the aces out,
and all of this stuff. Yep. And like, so let's look at like what board textures. So like you take out these hands though. Take out queens, take out ace jack, something like this. Like, so like, let's look at board text. Let's look at a board texture. So how does a Jack 7-3 rainbow board? Oh, we have to put so like, okay, so we're not gonna evaluate our hand against them.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's look at how this range does on a Jack 7-3 rainbow board. So they're defending 27% of all hands. And what is continuing on Jack 7-3?
So I think all in any Jack 7 or 3X plus obviously the pairs and gut shots. So is there a 4-5 or a 4-6 or a 7-5 in there? I guess not.
So we're gonna take out like a lot of these hands.
I mean, we could get really granular and keep in your backdoor flushes, but
yeah, we're not going to.
Yeah,
we're gonna look at how many of those hands are continuing. So this is really what
from
like
27 to 13.
Yeah, it's like they're folding out at minimum 50% of their range on flop, right? So that's how a Jack 7-3 board is like. It's really good for us. And they may not be defending, like they may not even defend like all of these like straight draws and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may not even have like pocket sevens anymore. They may raise that pre. They may even raise some of the like A7 pre, and then you get even less hands that are continuing. And I'm gonna take out like this too, so it's like even less. It's like it gets closer to them folding out like
66%,
like 2/3 of the time. Yeah. So like that's an example of a Jack 7-3. So what board texture do you think is like more indicative of a board texture that's going to like hit our opponent? Like, let's actually. I'm gonna pull something up for you guys. So like this is when I do personal coaching, this is a document I use pretty heavily of like understanding like board textures and what sizing we should be betting on those board textures. And like so these larger sizings.
Explain it.
I was gonna say this is deep.
So like Jack 7-6 flush draw, 10-9-8 rainbow, like those are board textures that are going to hit our opponent's range a lot more than like Queen 6-5 flush draw or like Queen 7 deuce, 8-5-3 rainbow. And so the bigger, so this is a little bit of an older document. so if you see here, larger sizing equals we bluff less. So like on this kind of texture, like we are going to have to tend to bet bigger on than a texture like 8-5-3 rainbow, where we can actually bet these textures more often, and on these textures that hit our opponent's range, we have to be betting less often, just because of them hitting our opponent's range. Our opponents have a lot of middling like Broadway suited connectors, and so that's why like these textures here, they're more textures that we have to be kind of careful on. I brought this up not to like confuse you guys. So
it's interesting.
It's more so just to kind of like focus on like what textures, like Jack 7-3 is obviously a really good texture. So like 10, 9, 8. So like if we look at 10, 9, 8, oops, did we not do it? 10, 9, 8 flush draw. Like when we think about our opponent's defend range.
Maybe could you put that little chart in the Skype group?
Yeah, I can. So like they may or may not even defend these hands. So like I'm just gonna like keep let's give them the Ever King, Queen 8, give them like some of these.
I'm burning somebody in the 3K, guys. I'm living up to my name.
All right, so we're actually, we'll give them this stuff actually. So I was trying to find the range that we gave them a second ago. All right, so it's like 34%. And then how does that do on 10, 9, 8? What percentage of hands do you guys think that they're going to be like continuing with on 10, 9, 8 flush draw? Casper.
All of those ones that are basically middle, upper, right. So if you start with like, from Jack 10, all those guys are continuing, as well as your suited aces that are hitting the 7, 8, and 9, that kind of thing.
Okay, so
that makes sense.
So yeah, so we're gonna cut out a few of these. So what did we have? 34. So we're gonna cut out like some of these. 10, 9, 8.
8, 7 off might continue.
10, 9. Oh yeah, you're right. And so might King 7 off.
Yeah.
But we're gonna fold out 4s, 5s, deuces, 3s. We're gonna fold out this. Well, we actually give them like flush draws here.
Yeah.
It's like. This gets very particular.
But yeah, but it's obvious that it just hits a lot more.
Yeah, they're just like rarely ever folding on like.
They're losing at most a third of their hands at most.
And it's not. It's actually not even really that close.
Yeah,
to
maybe
a
quarter.
It's like maybe a quarter.
Yeah.
If we're lucky. So that's just So that's just an example of like a board texture that really hits their range. And you can keep doing this same exercise where you analyze the board texture and you look at their range and you see how often your C bet is going to get folds. And you can do that both pre-flop and post-flop to analyze whether a flop, turn, or river is good for barreling for value, barreling as bluff, etc.
I imagine I'll be sending you some questions on that.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll be glad to ask or to answer them.